Hey friends, I think what I've just discovered is going to be revolutionary, not just for me, but for anyone using Ableton Live. I've been able to connect audio sources to Ableton over a network at under 3 milliseconds of latency. The implications of this, if you're willing to understand it and try it out, can completely change how you make music. Let's just start with a really simple example first. Okay, so starting with the most obvious example, here is an Ableton Move connected to my computer over USB-C. Now, I don't know if this is the best USB cable to use, but check this out. As you can clearly see, we have 4 tracks of audio going into the computer at under 3 milliseconds of latency, which is essentially real time. I mean, check it out. I'm not listening through the Move. I'm listening to the audio that's being sent over the network at 3 milliseconds of latency. This is real-time audio. And of course, Ableton's own instruments are going to work blazingly fast on their own proprietary technology. But this really got my gears turning. I was like, wait a minute. What if other software on other platforms joined the Link audio party? If you know me and my music, looping is a huge part of what I do with both my band Papadosio and my solo music Earthcry. And above all else, I think that Loopy Pro is the best looper ever made. So naturally, I was all over the Loopy Pro forums trying to see if they had implemented Link audio. But the mind-blowing thing is that reality decided to do us one better. There's this free and amazing little AUV3 plugin called AudioPipeline, which allows you to send and receive Ableton Link audio from any program that allows for AUV3 plugins. And if you're familiar with the iOS platform, then you'll know that there are some really awesome and inexpensive programs and DAWs that use AUV3 plugins. So, cue the 2001 Space Odyssey music. I loaded up Loopy Pro with AudioPipeline. I connected my iPad to my computer and a network was established, allowing for real-time audio to be passed back and forth between my computer and Loopy Pro.
Phenomenal cosmic powers!
Let me prove that this works first, and then I'll explain why you should care about this. Right? So as you saw there, the Link audio connection was super solid, and I was able to pass audio back and forth between Loopy Pro on the iPad and Ableton Live on my laptop in real time, combining the strengths of each program and platform to create something truly powerful. Now, even if you're not a looping artist, this opens up some incredible doors for real-time processing in the studio and on stage. For example, you could do some real-time granular edits to your beats via Sampler or Fluss or Celestine or some other hands-on kind of platform. Check this out. All right, so even if you're not in the Loopy Pro world, this is called Aum. This is a really awesome, I would say essential iOS musical app that allows you to connect audio and MIDI sources through plugins and create complex routing and stuff like that. But as you can see, bam, you've got Ableton Link here, so you can sync the clock of Aum to Ableton. And then, of course, I'm using AudioPipeline to send audio back and forth between the computer. I needed to turn off skip latency reporting so that it would connect in a lightning-fast manner, and I'm using Fluss. Now, this is a perfect use case because Fluss is a really hands-on granular processor, and I can go ahead and record some crazy edits with my fingers using Fluss. So yeah, obviously this is a really fun and hands-on way of making music. And being able to do this in essentially real time, as you can see, we've got, what do we got? I think I had to set it at 5 milliseconds in this case, but still, you know, essentially real time. I mean, there are effect processors, digital effect processors, guitar pedals out there that take more than 5 milliseconds to do what they do. In fact, I think that 5 milliseconds is probably about the average when it comes to using like a digital guitar pedal. So, I mean, this is real-time editing using my fingers on iOS, sending audio to and from Ableton. I mean, just absolutely incredible, really awesome workflow. Another example is on stage, you could have a CPU-intensive guitar amp modeler setup running on your iPad, but your Ableton set is running on your computer, so both machines are lending their processing power. Normally, to do this, you'd need a second audio interface and a charging cable and a bunch of cables, interconnect cables, just to get the system up and running. This setup not only eliminates that, but it would allow you to use the iPad and Ableton's effects in tandem. So this real-time immediacy allows you to take advantage of so many musical tools that were previously only available within the iPad iOS environment. Now, a quick word about iOS 2. A lot of people shrug off iOS and iPad musical tools as toys, but I just want to remind everyone that Ableton Live was the single most scoffed at DAW in the audio world when it first came out. Due to its colorful interface and right-brain design, it was called a toy by many industry pros. And now it's one of the most used DAWs out there, so, you know, do with that information what you will. But I personally am not going to limit my modes of expression and the tools that I use based on how they look. Also, you don't need to have a MacBook to connect an iOS device like your iPhone to your computer. If you use a Windows computer, you could also just use an Ethernet adapter and connect your system to that. Just remember that the low latency, though, requires a wired connection. If you try to do this kind of thing over Wi-Fi, you're going to end up with at least a buffer size of 100 milliseconds or more to get a stable connection, which isn't real time. So now what I'm going to do is go over how I've got Loopy Pro configured in order to make this whole real-time thing actually work, okay? So let's do that. Okay, so at the most basic level, I've got Loopy Pro synchronized to Ableton Live over Ableton Link. Now this is Ableton Link in terms of clock, okay? Both Loopy Pro and Ableton can start or stop the clock, okay? And so the design philosophy behind all of this is I'm not touching my mouse, okay? I don't want to touch my mouse ever. I want to touch a screen that has the layout for live performance the way I want to do it. I want to touch my instruments, and you can see my move is down here. And normally I'll also be using my guitar, which is also a MIDI controller, a jamstick, right? So this is where I want to control stuff. I don't want to have to touch Ableton's interface. I don't want to use a mouse on stage, okay? That's just not what I want to do. I have so much control over what happens right here, right? So this was the loop that I laid down before, but I can do so many different things in Ableton from this screen. So I'll go ahead and show you how this works sort of like in context with an actual jam, okay? So I'll just leave my bass line in for now. So again, I don't want to touch Ableton. I want to use this platform for its strengths. And its strengths are, one of the strengths of Loopy Pro, of course, is the ability to control Ableton or control anything from the interface right here. So I can choose a different voice, for example. Right? I can use my move, and I can call up the different presets right here. Now, how that's working in Ableton is there are just Serum presets. I've made a track called Serum Presets, and it's sending its MIDI to the instance of Serum that's living on this track, right? So check it out. I can just push a different one, and now it's switched to a different one. Right? So that's really awesome. I mean, I don't have to think. I just, what do I want? Push this, there you go, right? All right, so I'll go ahead and record something. So here's a loop, right? Now, another thing that I figured out how to do is to create scenes. So these scenes can remove or add various things. For example, let's go ahead and just do drum and bass. So that loop that I just recorded is gone, right? Or I could just do the melody. And this is using Variations, the device that you can get from IFTA. Super, super awesome. Another thing I could do is use Variations to add effects, for example. So, adding reverb with no drums. Or just kick delay. Or just isolate the bass. And then reset everything. So that's super useful. And you also might notice that the drums are changing too. What's up with that? Well, I made a drum random button. So I can essentially take, my drum rack that I've got over here. I'll go ahead and show it to you. This drum rack is utilizing my interesting little trick for being able to have a bunch of different drum samples in one drum rack via sampler, and then it's randomly choosing between those drum samples. I'm also using an instance of BAP by Beardy Man. If you haven't checked this thing out yet, it's insane. You can also randomize it, to make different 2s and 4s kinds of sounds, and like 1 out of every 8 maybe isn't usable. It's really that good. It's awesome. Right? I'll just do the drums. Now, something else that I put into the system is the ability to add sidechain compression. So I'll bring the bass back in. And I have a slider for that, right? All right, so something else maybe worth pointing out is that I can commit live effects to the bass, for example. So let's say I wanted to add some reverb for just a section. Now listen. This button just allows for some immediate effect to be applied via Tornado down here. And this is running in Loopy Pro, okay? Tornado, the instance of this is actually on this side. So I'm using Loopy Pro and its CPU to run some plugins over here. Let's do another one. So maybe a delay send. Maybe a slicer. Right? Now another thing I can do is I can use this bus. So what this does is this brings up an instance of what's called a looperator. And this is a funny little, really fun Sugar Bytes plugin, but you can add random cuts. Right? You can add random cuts to a loop, for example, and then you can record it to another loop. Now I've got it over here, right? So yeah, this stuff is super deep. There's so much that you can do in terms of looping between Ableton Live and Loopy Pro. And this new paradigm with real-time link audio via Ableton and AudioPipeline is a massive win for iOS users. Now, a lot of the specific looping work that I'm doing here is heavily influenced by my friend Beardy Man. And if you haven't checked out his live performances yet, it's truly one of a kind. In this example here, combining Ableton with iOS software and touch control allows stage performers to alter the sound in the mix as soon as the neurons fire in their brains. Using systems like this allows a musician to change what the audience hears as soon as they think of it. Because a common issue, if not the central issue to looping performances, is that getting from one thing to another to keep a show compelling is a constant challenge. But these systems can change all of that. Adding just a touch surface controller to your repertoire can solve so many problems. In my experience, musicians that I've talked to all have immediate judgments around touch controllers all the way up until they actually use one. There's a reason why Beardy Man, Dub Effects, Iodo, and so many other looping artists use touch controllers. And it's because you can have clearly labeled knobs and faders, and you can lay out your control in a way that's unique to your brain so that the flow state is easier to achieve on stage. Now again, I'm not sure of my teaching future with Loopy Pro, as I'm all in on teaching specifically Ableton Live, but I certainly will be performing with it, and I fully intend on covering what is needed to get a setup like this one up and running. If you're interested in learning live performance and looping with Ableton Live, I have a super wild and deep online course for that. You can check that out down in the description if you're interested. And again, as of now, unless there's wild demand for it, I won't be teaching Loopy Pro from the ground up, but I will be adding sections on Loopy Pro control setups and link audio pipeline workflows like I've shown here in my live performance course, because frankly, it makes looping artists have like godlike power over their setups. Now, something I feel compelled to leave you with, though, here is with the rise of AI-generated music slop and the relentless devaluation of recorded music, it's getting weird out there. But at the same time, the rise of tech that makes truly novel real-time performances possible that could have never previously existed, you are running out of reasons not to be a human playing music, right? Leaning into the things that AI can never do, and that's just to be a human doing human-centric things like live performance. Humans have been watching other humans make music for much longer than any modern tech existed, probably before even agriculture. It's never going to go out of style, and as far as I can tell, human stories and human performances are only going to get more and more valuable as they continue to scale up these AI slop systems and shove it down everyone's throats. Again, you're running out of reasons not to be a human. Cool, well I hope you enjoyed this. If you like this kind of thing, sub and hit the bell so you know when I put up another video. Much love, everybody. I'll see you next time.